Thanks, Jeff. Welcome, everyone, or good afternoon, everyone. Oops, ooh, that's not good. Okay, we'll try to make do with that. You're good. You're good. We're pleased to be here. I'm Todd Wasinski, Vice Principal of St. Martin's, and we're going to take you through what we call VIP, Voluntary Intervention Program. We piloted it last year, this program, and we had some success with it, and so we thought it was one of our metrics or one of our board initiatives that we wanted to do in the Safe School Department at Toronto Catholic. And so today we're, next 20 minutes or so, we're going to take you through a little bit of why we started coming up with this idea. We're also going to take you through what it looks like as a program. And then maybe it's something that you might want to consider for your school board, and maybe transfer it to that as kind of a proactive approach as opposed to a reactive approach, because we also oversee the expulsion program, so we house it in the same. Okay, so Dave?
Thanks, Todd. In fact, the expulsion program basically was the starting point for this program. We've been operating for, I think, 16, 17 years, the expulsion program. I had dark hair then.
You can tell.
And when we embarked on trying to design our expulsion program, we knew we were punishment. I mean, the expulsion is punishment, but we didn't want to punish the students when they got to us. We wanted to take a different approach, and we decided that we wanted to kill them with kindness. And so it was our objective to establish supportive relationships with our students and give them an experience that they hadn't received before. And you know, we had some pretty tough kids come through our program, and after spending 6 to 12 months with us, it was amazing that sometimes they would be in tears when it was time to leave. So we knew we were reaching them, and we thought that, well, wouldn't it be great to reach kids who weren't expelled? I mean, why do we have to wait till they get caught up in the web of expulsion? The problem was we didn't have the resources, and we were normally operating with about 30 students at any given time, and it's getting almost to the critical point where it becomes difficult to manage. So over the last couple of years, we saw our numbers drop, and so we had this wealth of resources. We have 4 classroom teachers, 2 full-time CYWs, a full-time social worker, a couple of guidance teachers, myself, who we would never really know what I do, and we thought, well, let's reach out, and that's the opportunity was there. So let's reach out and try to bring students in before they get expelled. So our objective was to find students who were disengaging from school. They were emerging issues rather than students with long-term behavioral issues. And we wanted to try to get them to reconnect, not only to school, but to their own lives. The objective would be to get them to reconnect and reintegrate them back into their own school. But if that's not what they wanted, then we wanted to help them set some goals and help them move forward. So it may not be that maybe school wasn't the appropriate place for them. The key was to give the power back to the students, I guess, and help them move forward in their lives. It's important that we didn't want behavioral kids, and as much as kids with long-standing behavioral issues would benefit from the types of services that we provide, we didn't want to end up being a dumping ground, and we firmly believe that those students are best, their needs are best served in their home communities. And we didn't want to be the dumping ground, I guess, for students with emerging mental health. And again, not that those needs aren't there, and that those students would benefit from this type of program. It's just that we had limited resources. So we wanted to find students who were doing well in school, but were beginning to exhibit evidence of decline. So dropping marks, perhaps a change in peer group, staff reports of behavioral changes, perhaps, initiation of drug use, the telltale signs of students who are disengaging with school.
And actually may lead to expulsion at some point. So to try to capture them before they get to the expulsion situation. What's our focus and goals? Well, the focus is basically a small, caring educational environment. Like I said, Dave talked about our staff. We have about 12 staff. Currently, we have 3 VIP students, actually, and we have about 9 expulsion students. So very small. So it's almost a one-on-one situation a lot of times. So we actually have 3 applications when we get back to the school next week for VIP as well. So we can look at those students that are leading toward that could lead to expulsion. So we'll try to capture them before they get there. So what we do is individualize academic programming. We have 4 classrooms set up in the school with 4 classroom teachers. So they could be working on one subject at a time, grade 9 English, with another student working on grade 12 English as well. But it's all individual programming, packets, and then the teacher could actually work with them one-on-one and so forth. Development of supportive relationships with staff and students, okay, that we have that, because it's a very small setting. We're like a little family in a sense. Go ahead.
Every student who comes into the program is given, we call them a pal, but it's a mentor. So one of the staff mentors that student, and they meet with them daily to see how they're doing. They meet formally with them once a week to review their goals and to perhaps tweak their goals. They also communicate with home once a week to give a formal sort of a review of how things are going. And they also meet, we give them evaluations once a month. And those are formal, and there's never a surprise because of the ongoing communication. But I just want to sort of paint a picture here. So in the morning when they come in, the staff and are all in our locker room, and so nobody comes into the building and isn't engaged with adults. And it's a happy place. There's lots of laughter and debriefing on their evening or the weekend before, and there's lots of positive interaction between students and staff, and I think essentially that really is the key. I mean, we talk about kids falling through cracks in regular schools. They go to schools and they don't have any positive interaction with adults, a lot of kids, and I would argue we don't have any cracks at St. Martin's, and it is because of that continual engagement. There's never a time when a student's in our program where they aren't in the presence of an adult, and I think that goes a long way to giving them a sense of belonging.
Thanks. Social work support. We have a full-time social worker, so if they come into the program, they have to have a social worker referral. So they have to be at least open to speaking with and working with and having, so maybe possibly counseling with our social worker. Yep.
Probably our social worker is the hardest working person in our program. On every intake, there's a full social work interview that's done, and there's an offer to the family to give them assistance to access community services if they need it, and the social worker also is involved in supporting attendance or punctuality issues or any other sort of social emotional issues that may exhibit themselves during the program.
Social educational assessment, if deemed appropriate. We have a part-time psychologist as well with the program that works 1 to 2 days a week. So we can get an assessment done where schools are taking up to possibly 2 years to get an assessment. We can have one done hopefully in a month, which is great. So it's a real benefit to our program as well. Program goals, obviously we want to understand the strengths and challenges for the student. We want to develop that trusting relationship with the student, and then obviously set out goals. Maybe it's to go back to your sending school, maybe not. It could be actually we're looking at an alternative program for you. Alternative schooling program could be maybe they stay with us as well if they're close to graduating. And we actually had, for my past 4 years of being in the program, we've had students that have graduated from us, expelled students, not so much the VIP because it's been smaller, we're working with it, but if it's the best situation for them, we keep them and then we graduate them, they get their 30 credits and they move on as well. Like Dave already talked about, we do give the daily, more informal evaluation, weekly phone calls to parents to see how they're doing, and a formal report card as well every month, satisfactory, or do they need work and so forth, okay? So we give them that as well, hard copies of that. Our expectations in the program. Go for it. It's your hand.
And again, this all sort of developed from the expulsion program, but we needed to sort of break down what we felt were the major criteria for being successful at school. And we didn't want a long list where students would be overwhelmed. And so we used my 5 fingers. And we said, you got to get along with your peers. We're really big on problem solving. So conflict is a part of life. We don't make any sort of illusions, but it's how you solve those conflicts that allow you to move forward in your life. So we want our students to feel confident that if they can't solve a problem, they have to come to one of the adults, and if it requires a formal mediation, we have a number of staff who are trained in that. But oftentimes it's just sitting down informally and solving whatever conflict may have arisen. So they have to get along with the peers. They have to get along with the staff. We're really fortunate. We have a great staff. Nobody leaves because it's such a great place to work, and people really love the type of work that we do. As I mentioned earlier, we're a joyful group, and we always bring students in, and you can see that they're hesitant to come into the building because they're expecting it to be punitive, and after a few minutes with interaction with staff coming in and out, they realize that this is a different place, and so it's easy to get along with the staff. But we're on a first-name basis with them, but we have to be clear that it's not a Caribbean cruise either, that when the staff asks you to do something, you need to comply. What we say is, though, that if you don't understand why or you think it's unfair, we have a lot of time. Let's talk about it. And our job would be to simply explain why we need you to do the things we ask you to do, or if they are unfair, change them. We need them to attend regularly and be punctual, and by and large they do. And we're in the city of Toronto, and everyone comes by public transit. Some of our students are traveling an hour and a half to get to us every day, and we want them there at 8:30. So if we have kids coming, they're there at 8 o'clock, so they're obviously leaving at before 7 to get to us. And snow days, you think, well, you're not going to get many students there. They come. And why do they come? Because, good things are happening in their lives, I think. But not all of them. And so we tell them that you need, the most important thing about changing in your life is showing up. And so we expect them to come on a regular basis. They have to do well academically. Special ed doesn't get any specialer when you have one-to-one support, and really that is the model we work on. So students who need that extra push to do academics, given that and a lot of guidance and for a lot of students, that's been a major issue, a major stumbling point that you know, they haven't done well academically, and with the wealth of resources we have, they begin to see that they can accomplish academically. And finally, we expect them to follow the rules. I mean, again, we're the expulsion program as well, and so the big rules is, you know, no weapons, no violence, and no drugs. But we also need them to follow the smaller rules, and in the sense that we need them to be giving us those signs that they can follow the expectations of a larger educational institution, and so we have a uniform. Not that I'm a big uniform fan, but we're sending them back to our Catholic high schools that have uniforms, and it is a symbol of whether or not you buy into the power structure, I guess, of schools. And I guess we always sort of summarize by saying, if you can get along with people and you can live up to your responsibilities, you can be successful in our program and probably successful anywhere.
4 minutes. 4 minutes. We're good.
Okay. Because this is a voluntary program that we're inviting them in as opposed to our expelled students, we outline our expectations at the front end, and we say, we're inviting you in. Are you willing to adhere to what we need you to buy into? And if they say no, then we're happy with that. I mean, maybe we're not the right program for them. But if they do say that they want to buy in and then don't demonstrate that, then we do have a means of reacting to that. We have an alternative program, and we have a teacher that we have assigned to meet our students in the library. And I sort of step back and say that we don't rush into this. I mean, if someone is refusing to meet with their mentor, or if someone is not coming to school, or if there are repeated conflicts and they're not willing to sit down and work them through, then when we get to the point where we conclude that it's not working, then we access our alternative model. And so that's where we would maintain their academics, but the rest of the supports wouldn't be available to them. And it's always an open door to come back. And if they want to re-access the program and they have met the expectations in our alternative program, then we would invite them back.
So this is a referral process. Usually we did it as a flow chart for our board, but basically it goes into and explains it kind of in the flow chart fashion what the process is with the referral process for us. So as you can see, it starts actually with a call to actually us in our program. We'll assess if we find if the student is a viable candidate. If they are, the school will then actually fill out a formal application package, send it to us, and then actually speak to the parents of the student and the student as well. At any point, you can see with the flow chart, if anybody doesn't agree, like if we don't think it's a good candidate, we've actually last year we had five applicants. We selected 4 of them, so we have an open door policy. The reason we sent one back is because social work had not been generated or referred to at the school level. So we figured you need that interaction there. If that doesn't work, then come back to us and then we'll see. We're not a fix-all program, right? So we want to see what can be done. At any point, you can see if parents aren't involved. Maybe school thinks it's a good candidate. We think it's a good candidate. But if the parent and the student aren't on board, it goes back to the school, and then they have to look at interventions to help the student at that point. Okay. The time we're there is basically usually a semester, and that's just for our system. because it makes it easier. You wouldn't want to take a kid for 2 weeks and then send them back. So you have to be at least with us for a semester, and then we'll place you back into the sending school or possibly one of our other schools, because maybe it's not a good fit there.
And, you know, if student has been successful and wants to stay, then, you know, if our numbers are such, and they are right now, we would never turn anybody away. I mean, there's nothing better than success, and it's great keeping students who are meeting all our expectations around, because they do have a positive influence on the other students.
And like we already indicated this one about maybe to return to the same school, maybe not, okay, depending. Reentry, we'll always have a meeting, obviously, with the, and talk about recommendations and what we think worked with us when we refer the student back to the sending school or to the new school placement, whatever it is.
I think it's important that we try to have the receiving school put in place the same types of supports that they can. Of course, it won't be in the same way, but having that CYW or social worker who is there for students to meet with. CYWs, I think, are phenomenally important in schools, because kids who are disconnected need connection. How do we connect to schools? We connect through the adults there, and if you're not doing well academically, then you need somebody who isn't really there for you academically, is there for you unconditionally, and is there to listen to you. So we try really hard to make sure that those supports are in place when our students go back.
So that's really our voluntary intervention program. Are there any questions? Okay, thanks a lot.